Hello, hello. Happy Thursday. Welcome to Party Wipe episode 27. We are working on a roguelike deck builder. You draft an RPG party. Timing on the music is pretty great. Hope everyone's having a nice Thursday here. Week's almost over. We're working through it. All right, let's get going here. Hello. We're working on serialization. We had a lot of debate and discussion yesterday about the best way to go about it, but I think we've got it. I worked on it a little last night in terms of establishing, I think, the process, the overall process, but now we gotta dig into the details. I got my coffee. Gotta keep remembering to drink it. Oh yeah, a lot of stuff is broken too. Just as an aside, I changed something about the card tokens. Oh yeah, when I create a card token, I need to set something right. Or it's gonna be broken. Card icon.texture equals card.carddata.cardicon. Cool. Hey Arneo, flying by real quick to say hi. Thank you. Seems you missed a few streams. No worries. Take it easy, Arneo. Appreciate you. No worries, Strivent. Thanks for popping in while you're waiting, I guess. Hope you're doing all right. You joined a game jam. Hell yes. Hell yes. The solo dev game jam starts today, I think, or maybe next week. Maybe it's next week. Oh, it's next week. Oh, it's tomorrow. Oh my god. I wish I could do that, but we're too focused on this. That's great. What game jam did you join? Sounds fun. You've been posting stuff in the server. I think you mentioned that was game jam related. The froggy stuff is fun. Found a teammate for the one button game jam. Awesome. I tend to like make my games one button, but it's fun to have like a thing that's like, but I guess one button doesn't usually mean just mouse click. It's usually a little more like precise than that. But man, I am on a kick. I'm on a kick as far as like how can I fit everything into just like one mouse click with contextual stuff? But yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, please share the jam entry. You got the bug? Nice. You're doing the music and the art, so I take it your teammate is like doing the programming and stuff. That's cool. Very cool. Yeah, I don't usually work on teams, but I think if you find a good team, I think it can be real fun. What am I doing? Oh yeah, environment map. So things are not as bad as we thought yesterday in terms of like, because we're not doing the like reloading the nodes or reloading the scenes unless we absolutely have to, like in certain cases, but everything is actually really stable, so we can go back to like unique name referencing things and like connecting signals in the editor and stuff, at least for everything that will be persistent within its scope. So like we have a run manager, and the run manager has its own stuff here, like it's got like the card piles and the buttons and like the party manager and all this stuff and the environment manager. All of these guys are persistent during the run, so they can reference each other and they can do a little bit more peer-to-peer kind of stuff, which is good and simplifies things. The only stuff that experiences a lot of churn, which is like the character sheets and like the character figures and like the roster tabs and stuff. Those will be recreating those a lot, but those are fine because those don't need these larger. Those aren't usually involved in like the moment to moment. Like they don't need to call out to things and like, and if they do, it can be a signal that we connect when we create them. Like it's not that bad. How's snapshotting coming along? Hey Sapphire, it's good. It's good. I think we settled on a pretty easy approach, which is like just doing our own like lightweight serialization, which just like basically sets properties on stuff most of the time. Super lightweight. We're not going to do packed scene.pack or like saving whole custom classes with like a pickler or something. It's just gonna be like dictionaries of dictionaries, honestly. Just gonna be property lists, which should have some flexibility in terms of forward compatibility, but we'll see. Not the purpose. It should be nice though. We should get an undo redo and like an autosave functionality like out of it. And a load. We should basically get our save load functionality and our undo redo functionality as like one thing. It should be one solution pretty much. With just one or two caveats, but they should basically be the same thing, which should save us some time in terms of the implementation. All right, what did I say I was doing? I'm fixing the card token. So when we create card tokens, we are not providing them enough. Oh, we have this setup function. No, we're not doing that anymore. Card token dot card equals card. Whoa. Card token dot tile map equals cursor map. I learned something about signals yesterday that I did not know, which is very neat. I'll tell you all about it. 1 second here. That's fine. The environment map process function is like the most out of control function we have in this code base so far. Luckily, we've managed to condense it all into here. It's one of those cases of like, there's a pile of spaghetti in a box, and the best we can do is like close the box. Keep everything in the box. Oh my god. Sapphire Starship on a 150 stream streak. Does this mean you're a regular yet? You are the most regular. Definitely, by far. Incredible. Assuming I stream 5 times a week, which I don't. I stream like maybe 4.5 times a week, probably. Let's just assume I do 5. That's like 30 straight weeks. Assuming there are 4 weeks in a month. That's like over half a year. That's like the whole year. Like I feel like you haven't missed a stream in 2026. I feel like you haven't missed a single stream this year. That's wild. Impressive. There were a couple weeks I didn't stream either. Yeah. No, I don't know if you've ever missed a stream since you started watching us, I think. You're very... I really appreciate it. What a stabilizing force. All right. Are we going to crash on load now? Or did I fix the thing? Okay. I changed up some of the iconography, which I like better. I've removed the level icon from the card tokens. There are some graphical anomalies that have showed up recently, which I'm confused about, but I'm going to not try to think about them very much. So you can see the cordoning around the tiles more easily. Kind of neat. It's not what we've been working on, but it's at least mostly working. I'm going to get rid of these. I thought about having like move and act buttons on the character sheet, but that's too confusing because they're too much like the other things and none of the other ones are buttons. So unless I make all of them buttons... Which I might make all of them buttons, honestly. But that would maybe be more informational than they would be like, you don't click move here. I don't know, I have to think about that. We're gonna start with a click and drag controls, because that's consistent with what we got with the cards right now, but eventually I do want to add click to select. Instead of just click to drag. That's not what we're working on today. Oh yeah, the card discard. The discard thing isn't working, so card isn't here. It's still on the character. Gotta figure out why that is. But that's not what we're working on, really. I'm kind of curious, though. Where the issue is there. Hey, Rhiannon with the 10 stream streak. All right, so when I equipment, if cardres.card name is not equal to equipment page, equipres.card name. Current equipment I have on this slot. To discard pile.emit. Oh, nobody is listening to these signals. Nobody is listening. The signals are being sent and no one is listening. Okay. Excellent. Let's take care of that. I don't know. I think I might need to take this card movement stuff out of the ready function. I'm like really concerned. Oh, and we even have it twice for some reason. Lord. Oh, what we do need to do is we need to add some signal connections here. We need to say... Who is going to be responsible for holding on to these? I want to say the card manager. Not the input manager. Card manager has a very specific job, though, currently. Maybe it should just signal up to its parent. To discard pile in equip page equipment card pile.cards.duplicate. This is from the character sheet. Yeah. We'll put it in the card manager. They'll all need a ready function. Who's there? Flare. Hey, how's it going? Do you guys think deck builders are inherently fun? Interesting question. I don't know. I'm going to be honest. I'm not a big deck builder player. I don't play MTG. I played Slay the Spire, you know, a normal amount. Haven't played the second one, waiting for it to be kind of done. Hey. I got a notification. I'm gonna wait to see if it actually pops up in the chat. Seems to be a weird desync. What do you think, Flare? What do you mean inherently fun? Like just the act of collecting cards together? I'd probably say yeah, that's probably true. I think the act of I think you could go further down, which is that the act of like collecting together things is fun, fundamentally. I don't know if they have to be cards, but I think that's one of the like core promises that some games offer, is like this opportunity to like hoard things. People have hoarder, you know, instincts. Humans do, because there's a finite number of resources on the planet and we need them. So I think there's like something very fundamental about hoarding resources, which is why people like incremental games, which is why people like collecting games like Pokemon, card games, also Pokemon. I wonder if the trash pile should listen to the signal. No, we're going to do it this way. Funk, we're going to say like on. Well, hold on. Where were we initially where we were like, we need to do this? We were in the character sheet, weren't we? You were in the playtest for Spire 2? You're not missing out? Oh, no. You don't really know what you mean. You're thinking about the probably meaningless distinction of games that have a fun baseline and games that are made fun by the specifics. Yeah, I don't know. I understand that distinction. It exists. Which is why friend slop is like the biggest genre on the planet right now. Because just playing shitty little games with your friends is fun. The games can be shitty, which is why they're called friend slop. And I say that endearingly. I don't mean like they're garbage games, but I was playing a Gamble with Your Friends. Gamble with Your Friends was fun. You get a lot of stuff for free, depending on what kind of game you decide to make. And like for a multiplayer game, you just get stuff for free, which is social dynamics, which are compelling by themselves. But yeah, I think it's an interesting question. All right, what did I call this signal? 2 trash pile. 2 discard pile. Yeah, I think this needs to be renamed Cards Discarded. Or I guess I could call it onto discard pile. I'm actually okay with that. I actually like that. So we call this 2 discard pile, 2 trash pile. I don't think we need a 2 draw pile. Maybe we do. Let's just do it just in case. I can imagine maybe some abilities where you're like, put this card back on top of your draw pile. So we'll just do it just in case. I don't have a practical example of actually using that, but it's fine. Hey, X-Bro. Add guns. Maybe not. Well, you say that. One of our characters is kind of like an artificer. So they'll have like a turret. And I think there are goblin mechanics too. And I think they also have access to turrets. So there's some guns. Happy Thursday. Oh, I can't call these cards. We'll call these cards to discard. And we'll just say like cards to discard dot move. Or oh, can we say move all to? Move cards to. Oh my god. Get out of the way, T-Bugger. It's like, why would you cover up the last line of code? All right, move cards to. Oh my god, I can't fucking see a single thing because of the way the tool tipping works. All right, card container dot move cards to. Oh, maybe we don't actually need to put this here then. Because it's, we specify the target when we do this. Yeah, okay, we'll do this somewhere else. Do this in the card manager. At least here we can just say cards, because this is not a card catalog or container. Rhiannon, you think to a subset of people, deck builders are inherently fun? Yeah, for people who do not love the genre, then no inherent fun. Yeah, that's the trick, isn't it? That's the trick. I agree that there's certain things that have a more appeal than less. Like, I feel like you could engineer a game to have more appeal. That's kind of why I picked this game. Is I did look at the triangle of like appeal, fun, and scope, and I did like try to engineer an idea where I was like, what's something that I can explain quickly, visually has a lot of appeal, and then hopefully has some fun underneath it. Because the way Jonas Tyroller talks about it is you need appeal to get people interested, and then you need fun to get people to stick around, right? Like you need some amount of appeal to get people to even try it. And then there needs to be some amount of fun to get people to stay. And the thing is, if you have more appeal, maybe you don't need as much fun. Maybe people will just play it anyway. Like, and then it's all underlined by the scope. I like the formula of like fun times appeal divided by scope. Hey, Rob. How's the game going on? Pretty good. I think we've settled on a serialization process that will let us do save load as well as undo redo, just with kind of the same interface, which is pretty neat. We're working on setting that up. I'm fixing some stuff first, but how are you doing? What have you been working on? Nuance is no fun. This is Twitch. This isn't a place for nuance, y'all. You want nuance, go to Substack or whatever people use nowadays. You want nuance, go to Wikipedia. This is Twitch. Hot takes. Hot takes and broad claims. All right, we're just going to say discard pile.move to. Move all to. Discard pile.move. Cards to. cards. Wait. Card container dot move cards to. Move specific cards to target. Is this a static function or what? So I don't see why it would need to be. How do we do the move config thing? .new. Non-static function move cards too. Why? Why does this work the way that it works? Move all to. So we almost don't want to send a copy of the cards. We almost want to send... Oh, no, we do want to send a copy of the cards. Whatever. Do it like this. We'll just say for card in cards. Thought there was a better way to do that. Discard pile. Oh, we'll just say card dot move to discard pile. We'll make a config for config. I hate when I get stuck at the bottom of a script. It's like trying to write something on the bottom line of a notepad or something. Hey, watching you games. How's it going? How's game? It's game. It's game. How's the game? How's the game with you? Making VFX. Very not fun thing to do. Yeah, making VFX sounds not so much fun. Using VFX is great. Using VFX is a grand time. Making sounds hard. Hey, Nanigans. How's it going? Hey, Nix. Hope everything's good with you. Have we come to a decision on how you're going to go about the snapshots? Yes. Yes. Why are you using the built-in code editor? Because it's built in. What code editor you'd prefer? VS Code? Not for me, thanks. No, I'm being... I don't know why I'm being snarky. I have a subscription to JetBrains Writer. I use that when I'm doing my C# code for like my other projects. It's cool. It's nice. There's nice stuff there for sure. I make fun of the GDScript editor. It's not that bad. I've never been a big VS Code guy. I don't know if that's warranted or not. But it's never been me. Yeah, Nanigans, we'll talk about serialization in just a sec. I'm fixing some stuff. Situation is good. The direction we've chosen is good. We're mostly following your recommendation. Just doing our own serialization stuff. Okay, so we got all of this. The only thing we have to do then is... we need to tell them ourselves, and we need to connect our signals. That's fine. Oh no, someone else needs to connect our signals. We need to... I wish I could have done those in batches, but it's weird. It's weird how how they've written the move cards to function. Maybe we could still do it, actually. I don't know why I set this up as a signal now that I'm thinking about it. Character sheet. I guess I thought maybe some people would be interested in that, but now that I'm thinking about it, I don't care. Understandable. Have a nice day. Yeah. Sorry, Blair. Rhiannon, even then though, don't you use the built-in editor for the good GDScript portion and writer for the C# bits? Yeah, for me that's more of a mental thing of I'm comfortable in this environment writing GDScript, as comfortable as anyone can be. I still forget how GDScript works almost every time I do it. I'm getting a little better because this project's all in GDScript. But I like having writer. I like having it be a different environment, and I used writer before I picked up Godot. So I'm able to like call back to like my ancient C# knowledge when I'm in writer. I'm just like, I'm in writer, I know I'm writing C#. And when I'm in Godot, I know I'm writing GDScript, and it's just a nice little... It's like walking through a door and forgetting what you're doing. It's like that for me. So yeah, I know I could write GDScript in writer. I know writer really wants me to do that. I don't feel super compelled to do that. But maybe I should rethink that. Maybe I should rethink that. All right, I'm gonna get rid of these 2 whatever pile signals. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it this way. I've changed my mind. Changed my mind. We're just gonna say card manager dot. No, we're gonna say. Does the character sheet have a card pile? No. equippage.equippile.cards.duplicate. Okay, we don't need to do it this way. What we could do is we could say equippage.equippile.move all to card manager.discard pile. Config, no, card. Move config new 0. And then is this the same? No, this is to trash pile, and this is character pile.cards.duplicate. So again, so this is easy because we're doing them all at once. We might need a different approach if we're only doing some of them. But since we're moving entire card piles, this is the easiest way to do it. I wonder if there's anyone else who has signals set up like that. Probably the equipment pages. Yeah, it does. You support the built-in editor ways. Even if it sucks, at least it doesn't have AI and doesn't harvest your data. Yeah, I know VS Code is very powerful. I'm very simple. I kind of like doing it this way too. There's also like a streamer thing about this, which is like why I use like the standard tools and I don't kind of go crazy with it very often. Or I like to just work in the engine because I like if people can come in and just be like, oh, he's in Godot. He's working on a Godot game in Godot. There's a recognizability aspect, which is like an ancillary concern, but I still think it's nice. I still think it's nice. Hey, Keemeth, how's it going? Oh, so I learned something interesting about signals. part of my old like Unity addled brain was like, surely when a signal is emitted, it like it's like executed later. It's like, oh, we continue on with the function that we're currently running, and then later we process the signal. No. So when you emit a signal, yeah, it's instant. It interrupts. All of the signal connections are processed before you resume executing wherever you were before. That's crazy. That's so nice. I don't know why I just assumed, I was like, well, surely it's like collecting input and it's just going to collect all these signals things and it'll have like a buffer at the end of the frame and it'll like process all of the signal executions or something. Pretty neat. Yeah, it's like this very neat little interrupt. Very cool. Didn't know that. Very nice. I was thinking I was going to have to change some stuff because there is a lot of signal crosstalk. And I was like, man, I really need all these signals to get executed before we continue on doing our thing. And it's like, wow, that's what happens. How neat. So yeah, signals are the best. I say, having just like ripped a few signals out of these custom classes, but yeah, it's very nice. Very nice. Yeah, Nanigans, we're doing serialization. We're just gonna, we're doing like a recursive serialization thing. Where is our game manager? So we're just gonna store a dictionary. So anything that I decide needs to be serialized, it's gonna have a copy of it that it stores for like deserialization purposes so that it can like hash itself and be like, hey, did we actually change? Or can we just kind of be the same? So we do a nice little, so for serialization, you just look at you look at any properties that you need to serialize, pop those into the dictionary, and then we recursively call the serialize function on any of your children. So like the game manager needs the run manager to serialize itself. When we deserialize, we do a quick hash check to see if we've actually changed before running the deserialize. And then we just start slicing off the data. I'm doing it a little weird here at the top level because I don't think there's actually any data currently that I want to record at the top level. So I'm kind of skipping a step. But if we go down to the run manager, it's a little more clear of an example because the run manager has a bunch of nodes that are its children that it manages. And so we can very easily serialize each of them. And then when we deserialize them, we can see if we have the data. We can try to deserialize that section of the data. And so we should be able to avoid a lot of work, quote unquote work, doing it this way. Potentially, when only parts of the tree have changed. So we're like serializing the whole tree, but not as a tree. We're just serializing all the data we would need to recreate the stuff that we need. I think it'll be fine. We're like serializing the diff, right? And that'll be neat, because we can use that for both undo, redo, and we can use that if we're, like, loading from a save. Should be good. Should be a good time. I gotta remember to keep drinking my coffee. So I need to keep writing the rest of these serialized functions. That's what I need to do. Anigans was like, sounds good. Sounds like what I was telling you to do yesterday. I don't know why I wanted to store all of the nodes in like a hot swappable format. So we could just swap out the other nodes and like have basically a copy of the various branches of the tree, like ready to swap in. That's a lot. That seems like a lot more of a performance overhead. I'm hoping this is very lightweight by comparison. And we like just don't even notice. All right, let's go to the environment manager first. Actually, I want to see if I fix the things I said I was going to fix. One card. Why do we have one card? What in the heck? All right, well, I did something that ruined everything. Let's see what it is. Oh, these are card piles. These are card piles. Super. Super. Sorry. It's not meant to be derogatory to French people. It's just funny. I just hear Jeremy Clarkson say super. I'm sure he was trying to denigrate French people, but I'm not. I just think it's fun to say. Feel like it should be. Not an expert on Godot's low-level internals, but sounds like it. Yeah, we're sticking to just dictionaries and just basic values. We're going to stick to just basic built-in types. We're not going to try to save any objects. We're not going to try to save any nodes. We're just trying to save the data that we would need to rebuild. And that's nice because then if we actually need to serialize it, like we write it to disk, which we probably will do at various points. We'll probably do it every turn. Probably write an autosave to disk. It's going to overwrite the last autosave, though. We're not going to let people just save scum. It's going to be one of those things where, like, every turn, you commit. You fully commit. And then no one should have to do anything of, like, closing the game and reopening it at the beginning of a turn, because I'm going to let you freely move within a turn. You will be able to freely undo, redo completely within a turn. But as soon as you end that turn, you've committed. Kind of like Into the Breach. Kind of. Into the Breach is different because the whole team goes, and then the entire enemy, like your whole squad goes, and then the whole enemy squad goes. And so that's more complicated, which is why Into the Breach, they have that button where you can, like, reset the turn once for combat or something like that. Because they don't just freely let you undo, redo all the way back to, like, a turn. I think they let you undo, redo within, like, one character's move. Like, you can do that pretty easily. Whereas we have, like, an interleaved timeline. So it'll be like a hero goes, then an enemy goes, then a hero goes, then maybe two enemies go, and then another hero goes. And then combat's over. Or not combat's over, but then it's like a new round and we do it again. You don't know if Godot handles that behind the scenes, but if not, if you are constantly autosaving and overwriting the previous, wait and validate that the save was successful before deleting the previous. Reasonable. Else you will encounter a player that will end up with dead game saves because something crashed or otherwise in the middle of saving. Yeah, we're going to be using var to bytes probably. I don't know if var to bytes reports errors. We're just gonna probably var to byte a dictionary because that would work. Var to byte. Oh my god. What do you want me to do if I can't search var to byte? Var to bytes, maybe? Is it? Var to bytes? Should that matter? Okay, that did matter. Crazy. Var to bytes. Yeah, I assume there's an error reporting. What am I looking at here? These are flags. Oh, this is So I guess we wouldn't have error checking here. We'd have error checking with when we would save this file access save. So yeah, I don't think we'll ever lose the autosave in terms of like the var to bytes should just occur. But you're right. We need to check the disk write to make sure that actually goes through before we delete anything. So that's fine. Then we can just have two saves and we can just flip them. We can just have an A and B. We won't let the player see that, but at least on the back end, we could just keep two saves or whatever. we fail to save twice, things have gone horribly wrong. Yeah, I don't like the new search. I do not like the new doc search. I get what it's trying to do, but it just annoys me. I don't totally know why, but it just annoys me. Encoding callable is not supported. That's fine. Yeah, no, their web search thing is weird. I don't know why. I mean, it's weird that I searched var to byte and it was like, I don't know what this means. And then I searched var to bytes and it was like, oh yeah. But Google did that to me the other day too. So. I've been trained to believe that like search just is broken. Just on the internet. Search just isn't meant to work right now. All right, let's see if this card discard thing works. So we're going to take a spear. We're going to level it up. And then we're going to try to discard it. Hey, there it is. Okay, that works now. All the layering looks like it's working. If I end turn. That's okay. Some of that signaling is not hooked up. I shouldn't be able to maintain a card preview. Small things I need to hook back up. We're not worried about it. We're going to work on our serialize, deserialize process, which this is wrong. But that's fine. Let's go down the list. Let's go down the list. I'm hoping this gives us some measure of forward compatibility with like save files and stuff. So if we like introduce a new feature or something, or there's new cards that I've added or whatever, I'm hoping that this will still work. Because we're saving things kind of loosely in the dictionary and we can define some fallbacks in case like a property is missing from the save data or something. Maybe we can like figure out what that property should be or whatever. I don't have a ton of hope in that department, but doing this approach seems more flexible than another approach, which I talked to my friend who made the Pickler add-on for Godot. And that system's very clever and it works with like network packets and it's like very good. And it lets you save custom resources and custom classes and stuff. And it's like, that's way harder to keep compatible because it just works based off of your current implementation of all of those custom resources and custom classes. But at least here, if it's just this property list, we can like extrapolate if we need to. Potentially. Hoping. Rhiannon, search is difficult. You maintain a search index for roughly 100,000 SKUs. Another few thousand model numbers, descriptions for parts, and models to let users search your site easily. It's tricky to catch all the edge cases. Some people will just search the part model number. Others are adding in brand names, but not with consistent naming. Yeah, it's tough. There's a whole bunch of edge cases you handle to try to get the best results back. Yeah, it seems very difficult. Seems very difficult. At least you're in control of like the database. Well, maybe not you are in control, but at least it's like you know what data you're trying to search. You're not trying to just like arbitrarily search the internet. But yeah, that still seems very challenging. How did I do this? How did I do this for the run manager? I've already forgotten. I wrote it last night. Equal save data. We say if save data dot has environment map, then we say environment map dot deserialize. I went for this recursive approach because I just didn't want the top level save manager thing to just have to know about everything. So I think this is gonna be all right. It's a little finicky. So we're gonna still take on the new save data, even if we don't actually deserialize it. This should be mostly fine. I could see some cases where this might be a little weird, but maybe I need to. Could indent this one. All right, see you Sapphire. Search is also often handled with a sledgehammer in cases that only require something simple. It's nice when you can just do a simple fuzzy search on a title and a handful of fields, especially when the data set is small enough you can handle it all on client negligibly. Why did that word struggle? Why did I struggle with that word? Yeah. The thing that boggles my mind now that we're in this age of like Gemini search and stuff, they've abandoned so many things that were solved problems of search. Just from what I've heard and what I've seen, like Google in past times was able to like cache common searches, and they had a lot of optimizations that they made around it. But from my understanding, the way the Gemini overview works, they don't do that anymore, really. Like they're not like caching common AI search results. Maybe they are now because the cost of doing this stuff is going up, but from my understanding is that has not been a priority for them. And we lost so many things that we had figured out. This is another shitty case of serialize where like we're not actually doing very much on the environment manager because the environment manager themselves doesn't record very much. And we're not going to record node references and stuff in the saves. So we are going to need some neat way that we can load from a save when we like start up a run, or when we load a run. Because loading a run and starting a new run are procedurally very similar in terms of initializing everything and getting the scene tree up and all that stuff. The only difference is we have data. When we deserialize, we have all of this data that we can plug in. But a lot of that data needs to be plugged in before things are added to the tree. So, no, that should be fine. That should be fine. We just have to do it in a way where we can do it all after. So we honestly might run deserialize. We might be able to do this. We might be able to do it in either case. Actually, as long as we run the deserialize step after ready, after the whole tree has had a chance to like prep itself, and then we run deserialize, that should actually be fine. Because some stuff might need to be recreated in terms of nodes being recreated, but we can handle that. Because we know where that would happen. Because a lot of nodes are very persistent for their given scope. And then we know where the nodes are that like are churning. Things like character sheets and character figures and roster tabs, things that are like churning a lot. There definitely is various cache layers for that too. There's definitely a lot of step backwards. Yeah, it seems like they've taken a lot of steps backwards to just do the sledgehammer thing, like you said. Just do it as... Also, this needs to return a dictionary. This is really stupid. This is probably just about the stupidest serialization system one could have. But I feel like that's on brand for me. Let's go into the environment map. Oh, did I already write this one? No. Here we go. Maybe deserialize should return like a bool or something. So we can be like, hey, we didn't succeed. I'll probably add that once we actually start handling failure cases. Hey, we're heading into ads. Hold on to your ads, everybody. We'll be back in a few. Hey, Jacob. Hold the door. You made it. Not an ad somehow. Incredible. Slipped in between the ads. Oh, you're a turbo man. That's it. I see. All right, so what are we doing here? We're starting to get into the area where we actually do have to start deserializing things. Oh, so actually the last layer was an interesting layer. This layer, the environment manager, what we actually want to do, we actually need to... Well, no, the environment manager will always be loaded on ready, so maybe we don't. I was thinking we could do a thing where we, like, check to see if this reference is null, but this reference will never be null. Gotta go fast. Oh, yeah. All right, what do we need to save? We need to save the marked figs. Which I guess needs to be duplicated. Anytime we save an array, I guess we need to duplicate it. That's fair. Fig by name and fig by tile. I don't think we're going to save any transient information like... I don't think we're going to save any transient information like, oh, your cursor was here, or... But that could break, I guess, if we don't do that. Could it, though? I'll have to think very carefully about what data should be totally dependent on, like, the real, quote-unquote, real data, the committed data, So we need to save bound tiles. We can't save, so we can't save things like card token, but that's fine because card token doesn't exist in between or outside of an action. So there's a lot of stuff that's happening when we're in the middle of an action. None of the transient stuff that's like in the midst of an action stuff should be saved. That stuff should all just be wiped out and reset. That's how I'm gonna have to go. How's Undo Madness going? Good. I think we found an approach that will work for undo redo as well as save load. And I think we can use one approach for both. And it's pretty lightweight. We're not gonna save any objects. We're only gonna save engine primitives like dictionary, array, basic types. Although I say that. That's going to be hard with fig by name and fig by tile, huh? But that's fine because we know they're unique based on their name. At least these ones are. We could store, what we could do is store a different data structure than this. We could store a special data structure that lets us rebuild this, is what we could do. Like we could store fig names, which is a thing of string names, and we could store fig tiles, which is a thing of vectors. However, how would we know which figures are on which tiles? I'll have to think about this a little. It's not all done. It's not a done deal, but it's definitely an approach that's gonna, I think, be ideal for our situation. Because yeah, anytime there's like a reference to like a node or an object or something, we don't want to save that. We do not want to save that. Worst case scenario, what we want to do is save all the data we need to recreate that object. I might actually change the way I'm storing data here. Like what I should probably do... I could store a dictionary of string name and vector. Might work. Might not, though. It'll work for characters, but it's not going to work for enemies. But that's maybe okay. Because enemies are okay, because enemies don't... There is no, like, with a character, with, like, a quote-unquote human character, like, their character sheet will differ from their underlying card, like the card that created them, because they can gain things. Like, they're more than just the sum of their parts in the sense that, well, they are just the sum of their parts. But that's why it's easy, because we can rebuild them if we store their part list. Enemies are even easier, because enemies aren't going to have parts, really, I don't think. Because I don't really want characters to have to think about that. Or players. I don't want players to have to think about that. I don't want a player to be like, oh, this bowman has a bow of extra of like +3 killing that guy. But this bowman has like extra armor. I don't want players to have that kind of cognitive load of like, I'm dealing with these enemy types and they have gear. So I have to think about their gear. I think that's interesting. I think that's interesting from like a strategic depth standpoint, and maybe we add that in the future if we decide that it's not that hard to reason about. But my instinct tells me that cognitive load is too high. Because it's one thing that your characters are changeable and have like all these different stats and you have all this equipment and stuff, but I feel like it's not meaningful for the enemy to have that. Because you can't interact with it really. Like, yeah, maybe we have like a rogue spell that lets you like steal someone's gear or something like that. Like, there's cool stuff we could do with it, but I feel like most of the time it would just be confusing because you'd be like, oh, there's 2 warriors here. There are 2 demon warriors. One has like this kind of an item and the other has this kind of an item, but which one's which? Like, they look identical. So I think it's one of those cases of if they look identical, their stats and everything should be identical too. So it's a little easier. It's a little scarier when you're talking about the characters here because there's more data. There's more data. So bound tiles. I kind of don't want to store anything from any kind of interaction. Like, I don't want to store anything that has to do with like selections. Like, if you save the game and you're in the middle of selecting and moving something, I don't think you can be in the quote-unquote middle of selecting and moving something. Like, you couldn't do a drag move and save in the middle of it. I'm just not going to let you do that. I'm not going to let the player save at all, I don't think. I think I'm going to be in charge of when saving occurs. So we don't need to worry about any of that. So it's not like... So if you loaded... So let's say you selected a character... And then that created like a boundary in there around the character of like where they could move to. And it like brought up their character sheet and it like changed the UI and stuff. If you quit and then reloaded, I think I would load the same turn, but I don't think I would load the fact that you had selected that character. Because that's crazy. That would involve me being able to rebuild the UI and all of this stuff every time. I don't think we want to do that. I think we just want a manifest of like, here are the things that exist, and here are some of their attributes, if they're different from, you know, the baseline. Because I guess you do need to record some enemy stuff, because your enemy might be at, like, half health. So we do need a way of identifying them. So maybe string name, maybe their name by itself is not enough to identify someone. Maybe it needs to be, like, name and location. I mean, location by itself would be sufficient. I'm wondering how I would identify, like, 2 enemies that have the same name. And how I would be able to... Like, if I store the figures here, and I'm like, hey, there's enemy Bob at 1-0 and enemy Bill at 0-1. And then I'm like, okay, let's recreate Bob and Bill. And then the character sheet's like, okay, I have Bob and Bill here. I guess I do need to use a compound key of some kind. And I think name and tile is reasonable. Theoretically, I could just use tile, but that seems like insane. Only because we can't really have 2 things occupy a tile at once. Currently. I don't think I would ever support that, though. That would just be confusing. Even if we have flyers or whatever, I don't think I would let you occupy the same tile as something else. All right, so if I wanted to recreate the fig by name and the fig by tile dictionary... I kind of just need to store one thing, which is a list of figures that is like their name. Oh, I just need to store the figures themselves. And we'll recreate this as we recreate the figures. Oh, okay. That's not that bad. I don't need to store things like bound tiles or marked figs or anything like that, because that's all like input-based stuff. That'll all just be recreated. I guess... No, I guess if you hit undo or redo, I guess it should just clear all of your selections and everything. We'll just do a clear. We're not going to try to, like, roll back to that. Because that's meaningless. Relatively meaningless. Okay. I'm getting it. I'm getting there. I guess certain things like depth size and map size could be different. It's assuming they're different. Like, assuming we have different maps to load. I guess that's just something the environment manager will know. Eventually, the environment manager will know where it got the map from that it loaded, so it'll be able to reload that map. And then, assuming that the map will have its own list of like enemies or NPCs or whatever, we can then just run the deserialize, and it will just fix it. It'll fix the load in the same way that it would fix like an undo or a redo. It'd be fun. Hey Claymore, how far along is the project? 5 weeks. 5 weeks plus. We're working on all the card interactions and like the save load and like the undo redo, all the turn-based and card-based stuff. We're working on a roguelike deck builder where you draft an RPG party. Hey LSG. How's it going, Claymore? But we have a pretty aggressive timeline with this project. We have some in-person playtesting in about 6 weeks that we're trying to get a playable build up for. So the goal is to have this game playable in from like, I don't know, 3 months from when it started. It's pretty aggressive. For the size of game this is, that feels very aggressive. Thought this was going to be smaller. I thought the game was smaller than it turned out to be, but you know, that isn't that just the way? So this actually doesn't have any. So when we deserialize, we need to reset a bunch of stuff. We can call things like clear tile outlines. Clear all tile outlines. We can clear a bunch of stuff. What I should do is I should make a function that's like encapsulates all of the ephemeral state that you just want to reset before doing stuff like that. You just woke up from a killer nap. No worries. Welcome back. Did I add a last save? I did not. Oh yeah, Lost Solo Dev Jam is tomorrow. I'm so jealous. I am so jealous, but I am so behind from where I thought I would be on this game. But that's fine. You hit a speed bump. Spend a couple of weeks just kind of figuring out how to proceed. That's just kind of how it is. You try a bunch of stuff. Trying a bunch of stuff is where the time goes. It's where the time goes. Trying stuff that you ultimately have to roll back so you can try something else out. But it's cool. This kind of serialization process is something I could use in the future. I kind of like the approach from as far as serialization paradigms go. Very jealous, LSG. I want a dog. I was gearing up to get a dog. That's what I tell myself. And then my company was like, hey, RTO is happening. And I'm like, damn it. I mean, I'm glad I didn't jump the gun and get the dog first, because I would go broke trying to, like, put this dog in, like, boarding 3 days a week. I don't know how people do it with, like, child support. By that, I mean child support, like child care. That's what they call it. Child support is something else. Child care. Dog care. Dog care gets expensive. I have a friend who does dog care. She makes bank. A lot of perks. People love their dogs. I get it. I like dogs way more than I like people. Spoiler alert. All right, what am I doing? Deserialize. We say if hash last save is not equal to hash save data. So what I should do, we should just do this. We should be safe. We should be safe about this. We should be safe and just reset most of these. I'm just going to put all of these in here and then figure out what we need to recreate. So bound tiles dot clear. Kind of silly that I'm doing this in the deserialize function, but I think that helps us. So there's kind of a slight problem, like what if they exist? What if they exist? I guess it's on me to... I'm going to get to the right page. Here we go. We're going to have to go through here and we're going to have to reset all of these. Last save, not that one. So card token should be null. These values will be reset anyway. I hope. All right, these need to be cleared. So we really need to, there's a lot of data we need to rebuild, and that's okay. This is how we're going to do it. We're actually not going to worry about storing the data for like fig by name or fig by tile. We'll get back a list of our figures from the character figs. Well, from iterating through the character figs list. So this should be null. Should be null. This should be false. Clear this. We also need to clear all tile outlines. This needs to be false. So none of this even uses the save data, but how we're going to use the save data is like so. What we're going to do is we're going to say card token. Well, we'll say for card token in card tokens dot get children. A Godot for loop is not like a regular for each loop, Larry. Like, oh no, a for each, like we won't execute if there's nothing in get children. I think that should be fine. It's a bit random, but you've been going down the rabbit hole of how Godot handles data save integrity. After talking about the autosave stuff. TLDR, Godot handles it automatically if the game crashes or there are other write errors just by adding this line to the project somewhere before you start writing data. os.set use file access save and swap true. But it does not handle OS crashes or power outages. Well, that should be okay for us because we're going to autosave anytime an action is executed. And I think if your computer crashes or the game crashes while you're executing an action, I don't think you would be put out by the game loading you from one action before. But yeah, I think I do like your idea of having like 2 save slots and just like alternating them so that we always have one good save at least. And then we can just, if we have both, we can just load the most recent one. It doesn't have to be 2, but I kind of like the alternating. But yeah, OS. So I don't totally understand what os.set use file access save is going to do, but let's see. Let's look it up in the docs. But we're going to search Google because we know the docs are totally useless. Oh, and in fact, we're not going to like os.set use file save access and swap true enables safe atomic file saving. When writing to a file, Godot creates a temporary file instead of overwriting the original. Only swapping it in after the write succeeds. Oh, so we can have just one save file. This prevents data corruption during system crashes or power failures. Didn't you just say it doesn't work during system crashes or power outages? Gemini is like, this works during OS system crashes and power outages. What did you say? It works if the game crashes. Godot itself has the same functionality. So apparently will likely corrupt any open files in the editor if your computer crashes. That's interesting. Okay, yeah, I'm not sure whether I want to use this OS set use file access save and swap because it sounds like it would help me in like most cases, but in some cases it would totally hose me and people might lose their entire save. So yeah, maybe what did you call it, LSG? Leapfrogging save kind of thing. Maybe like a two-face alternating save file system. I like this atomic swap thing. Although, here's the question. Here's the question that I don't know. Here's something I don't know. How would you tell if the save file was corrupted? How would you tell without loading it? Like, how would you tell without trying to load it and failing? No, that's nice. That's a nice pointer. You don't need to check. You just wait until it is done writing and hasn't triggered an exception. Well, how about this? So let's say we're writing one of the saves out, right? What if the program crashes, or let's say the computer turns off in the middle of that write? And let's say we use the two save thing. How do you know which save is valid? Assuming one of them is valid and one of them isn't. Timestamp? How do you know you crashed? Because you give it a dummy file extension or a temp directory. So you're saying save it somehow in a way that you can clearly tell whether the save went through or not. And you can tell at like the file level by just looking at the file whether it succeeded, whether it finished writing or not. Okay. So we write it out with some kind of detail, or maybe we write it and then we like change the name when it's done. Technically, the computer could still crash while you're deleting the old file and renaming the new one, but that seems like such an edge case. Like save.part and then rename to save. Yeah, something like that. Okay. That's reasonable. And then for that, you probably want to use that atomic. You probably want to enable that atomic thing, just to minimize the chances that one of those writes that you make to like update the file. Well, let's just add that line to our save manager because it sounds like it's only good. It sounds like we can't totally rely on it, but it sounds good. Does that work in any OS? Like, I don't know if that makes sense. Like, do I need to check which OSs we're using? I cannot find the Godot documentation page that mentions this. Maybe if I just go to the OS page. OS. Okay, OS is not sufficient. Operating system. There's a demo. OS, here we go. Set use file access save and swap. If enabled is true, when opening a file for writing, a temporary file is used in its place. When closed, it is automatically applied to the target file. This can be useful when files may be opened by direct applications, blah, 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 or even the Godot editor itself. So as long as it doesn't fail, at the exact moment when it automatically applies it to the target file, this should cover us in like every case, huh? Or this should cover us in most cases, huh? That's neat. Ooh, you got some issues. You got some GitHub issues. We like to see GitHub issues. Hey, introvert. Introvert calibrated. How's it going? Thank you for the follow. We're at 799 followers, y'all. That's pretty cool. Sync file system before rename during atomic write. So this is an open issue. Make sure the contents of the file are written to disk before renaming it on top of any existing file. In the event of power loss or OS crash, this ensures that the file will contain either the old version or the complete contents of the new version. Otherwise, the user could be left with an incompletely written file and data loss. In each of the Windows and Unix implementations of file access, add an internal sync operation that's called right before the rename if is backup save enabled. On Unix, sync calls fsync on the underlying file explorer. Windows, sync calls flush file buffers on the underlying file explorer. This fixes this issue, which is the issue 98360. 98360. Corruption of files during system power loss or system crash. This one's still open. Swap and alternate together should minimize risk. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, Nanigans. I guess if the save file exists and the temporary file exists, we know we failed. We know we failed, assuming that you can associate one with the other. Like they have a similar name or something. Okay, this is great. This is great timing to be discussing this issue while we sort out our serialization. I think you're also going to create a save file editor so you can create new save files that you can send to people for tech support reasons. That's neat. Yeah, you're saving everything out to text, right? So that's pretty easy for you. I mean, I say easy. Manually adjusting or creating a save file sounds like the craziest thing I've ever heard, but considering just the complexity of what save state could be sometimes, but still. Depends on what you're saving, I guess. All right, Godot's file access is used to both save resources in the editor and to save game state by game developers. Is that what all those temp files are that clog up my file system in the editor? Because I'll have scenes that have like 3 or 4 like temp file nonsense things associated with them. And they'll just stick around. Are those like attempts to save that like failed or something? I go through and I clean them up every once in a while. think that's largely cache stuff. Oh, okay. I'd be like, I don't feel like Godot is volatile enough for that to be the case, but your save state is dead simple. A scene path of a level and a list of IDs for collectibles already collected. You also have a list of flags eventually. Okay, yeah, that is dead simple. That's nice. All right, let's get back to this issue. To reduce the risk of files being left in an intermediate state in the event of an error, file access is able to write to a temporary file, then move that file on top of the existing file. This is the default behavior in the editor and in any game where os.set use file access save and swap true is used. While this is good enough to protect against errors and crashes in Godot itself, it does not provide an atomic operation that protects against power loss or crash of the operating system. Yeah, I kind of want to fix this because if a player only has one save for their run, this could be potentially catastrophic. I could get around that by still just having the 2 save system, so that if one of your saves is bad, maybe you've lost some progress, but at least you haven't lost all of your progress. So yeah, I think having at least a 2 save system is good. That should be fine. For your save stuff, you think you're going to use a mix of SQLite and YAML for most things. You're going to be JSON instead of YAML, but a recent Godot talk convinced you YAML is better for your needs. Okay. Why? I've used JSON. I don't know if I've ever used YAML before. I guess I should watch the talk. I haven't watched any of the Godot talks. Maybe it's because I'm sad that I didn't get to go. Well, I guess we haven't even had the North America one. I guess I'm just sad. I should watch them. YAML is both more feature-rich and more human editable. Oh, okay. Sounds cool. Does Godot have good support for YAML already? Or is this like roll your own kind of situation? Yeah, I'm just going to store it all in byte form. I don't know why. Just for simplicity, I guess. I could do var to string if I really wanted, I guess, instead of var to byte. I don't really want people to be able to manipulate their save files either, though. Okay, before renaming the temporary file, it's essential to ensure that the newly written contents have actually been committed to the underlying storage and aren't still sitting in the OS buffers. Otherwise, the effects of the rename operation may be written to disk before the contents of the file. Power loss or OS crash during the state could leave a partially written file in place of the original, and no direct way to recover the original. Okay. On POSIX systems, commit to underlying storage can be accomplished with the fsync system call. When called with the file descriptor, fsync will block until all outstanding writes associated with the file descriptor have been acknowledged by the underlying storage device as being stable against power loss. On Windows, the equivalent of fsync is flush file buffers. Note that fflush is distinct from fsync. The former operates between the process and the operating system, and the latter between the operating system and the storage device. Example of other libraries and applications probably using fsync, blah, blah, blah. This seems like one of those issues that is theoretically very scary, but in practice probably almost never comes up. Not built in. You think that talk linked to a plugin. Yeah, that's what I figured. Yeah, JSON converting everything to floats is whack. That's deeply weird. Notice the problem on Reddit. Of course they noticed this problem on Reddit. This sounds exactly like a Reddit discussion problem where like nobody has run into this issue in the wild, but it could theoretically absolutely destroy your save file. One post told the story of how a project was ruined because their computer lost power or was saving. Okay, so this sounds like it was an editor thing. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'm not worried about the editor effect of this because source control makes it trivial. But yeah, for corrupting a save file, this is terrifying. I don't care about reproduction. I don't care about this. 98361 is the proposed fix. 98361. People are still talking about this. Looks like people are working on this. All right, let's look at their solution. I'm a little worried that their solution is not accessible to me without modifying the engine, but whatever. We can do our own thing where we can like write something. We can do some kind of confirmation that the save went through. This isn't a problem I technically have to solve now. I'll probably just turn on that OS feature. There's some heavy discussion going on in here. This is an old discussion. They're talking about whether your disk is spinning or not. I don't think we're actually going to run into this if we have a double save system. The thing for me is I just don't know how I would... I guess we would know if this failed one of two ways. The condition that they're describing is terrifying because what he's describing is he's saying, so it's possible that you have renamed the file, meaning you have made the new temporary file indistinguishable from the old file, like you've copied the new file. You're going to copy the temporary file into the permanent file. You've renamed the permanent file to acknowledge that, but the file transfer has failed during the copy of the actual content. So you have a file that says it's the new content, but it's not. That's if I'm reading this right, that's the condition that he's describing that's possible. Is that you could have this thing that says it's the new save file, but the content wasn't fully copied over, which is terrifying because that means we need to like introduce our own step or something at the end where we like confirm that the file is good or something like that. Maybe we'll just have our own implementation of this or something, I don't know. Where we like wait for the file, right? Yeah, maybe we're just going to implement this swap system kind of like ourselves, quote unquote. I don't know. That seems dumb. It seems like if that was all you needed to solve this, that would be trivial to do. But I don't know, maybe it's that straightforward. posted the YAML talk. Thanks. Appreciate that. What do you think, Nanigans? You think that would be enough of a solution? Is if we kind of... We'd probably both turn this setting on and then also do our own version of it where we like A/B save and we like replace... I don't know. We replace the main one, or we mark the new one as the new one, or whatever, however you want to do it. However we mark whichever save file we want after we've confirmed no error from the file access. Right. Kind of do our own, which I guess we may or may not need to use this setting. Yeah, it couldn't necessarily hurt. Just doing your own version you think is fine on its own. Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily need this setting if we're going to do our own. It's a very common pattern now. Okay, I'll have to look into that. We haven't gotten to that part yet, but that's going to be crucial once we actually start writing these files out. The fact that this covers when the files are opened by other applications is kind of neat. I think I want to set this on just in case of that. Because I don't know, maybe I change my mind and I do text saves. I don't really want you to be able to corrupt your file just because you opened it somewhere. By like, yeah, like an antivirus or something. So that giving the program a temp file for even just opening is neat. So yeah, I think I will turn this on anyway. We'll just pop it into our save manager here, which doesn't have any, which I haven't done anything yet with. We're gonna give it that floppy disk icon for sure. Put on a floppy disk. I love these icons. It's so stupid, but I enjoy them. Floppy disk. But yeah, we'll probably do our own thing where, yeah, we either do something with the extension or we do something with a name. We could do something where we like update the timestamp after we've confirmed that the write went through, so that if the write doesn't fully go through, it'll just appear as the older save, no matter what. As long as we write to the older save, finish the write, confirm there's no error, and then update the timestamp of the older save to mark it as the newer save, then the loading system doesn't even need to know about the fact that about this, as long as it just always picks the newest save. The default value for this setting, it says it's false. It says it's true for the engine, but not true for the game or something like that. I think that's what, like, the editor is protected by this, but games aren't. So there's some editor code that's running that's turning this on, but only in the editor, is what I read on that whirlwind tour of reading these things. But we'll just add it in here just for safety. Safety first, then teamwork. Why not? Watch this, like, destroy the OS, or destroy the web build. If absolutely necessary, we can do a check the platform before setting this sort of thing, but I'm just gonna turn it on for now and not worry about it. All right, for card token, for token, card token, in card tokens. Actually, we don't need... We can just delete all of these, can't we? We don't need to ask about them. The tokens should not survive deserialization. The character figures is a little different. It's a little different. What we should do is we should say something like, if save data.has character figs, I wonder if I just want to do it here then. You're thinking of having like a .save.a and .save.b and then promoting the one with the latest modified to be A. I care about save manipulation, so yeah, I care a little though, but there's almost no randomness in this game. The player won't be able to load arbitrary saves, so I don't think I care if I save more than one save. I guess the player could go in, delete the newer save, and then like load the older save. Assuming they could find it, which they probably could. I don't absolutely care if people save scum. I don't want to make it easy. So yeah, so if you're like manually deleting files and stuff, I don't know if I care. I don't care tremendously. Yeah, there's nothing you can do really, unless you want to just go absolutely Iron Man and only have one save file for a given run. I do think I want people to be able to, well, actually, does it make sense to let people have multiple runs? No, it doesn't. So yeah, I don't know. I'm too scared to just have one save file. I'm too scared to do it without at least two. I think 2 is fine. If 2 save files becoming corrupt, it is so astronomically unlikely. If that's happened, then your whole disk is probably fucked. Like, that's not like a game-specific problem then, probably. Yeah, there should be almost no need to do that kind of stuff. Yeah, you can't prevent people from manually copying, replacing files. Because if someone really cared, they would copy their save file before they started playing, like a round or whatever. And then if they didn't like the outcome of the round, they would just replace that save file. Even if there was just one save file, they could do that. So yeah, there's no way around that. But yeah, from a menu, from a UI standpoint, you're not going to be looking at save files. Your options are going to be new or continue. I was even thinking the other earlier about whether I should let people like remove their like unlocks if someone wanted to like quote unquote start over. I don't know why. I don't know why anyone would want to do that. Because I want to make it very tiered. So like if you're running with the default 4 heroes, there's certain content you just won't see. And then let's say you unlock some additional character. Now you will get that new content, but like only if you run that character. That's the idea. And I think that's mostly okay. I guess that doesn't totally work in terms of equipment, if you can unlock equipment as part of unlocking a hero, which seems like something I might allow. You're doing that. You're guilty of doing that in Baldur's Gate. It's funny. Stuff happened due to a bug. Things that you don't consider your fault or in-game RNG. Yeah, that's you don't. Whatever lets you sleep at night, Nanigans. No, I think the fact that there's no output randomness in this game, that helps a lot. Obviously, the cards shuffle as they shuffle. And we were talking the other day about actually needing to be able to set the seed, the draw seed, like for card shuffles and stuff like that. Because we're going to need to reset the seed if we undo. So we're going to have to think about that at some point too. About putting that in the serialization system. So that if you like quit, reload, and then do the same draw again, you get the same result. I guess reload is the wrong thing. If you just hit undo, if you shuffle your deck as part of an action or something like that, and then you undo, and then you shuffle your deck again as part of an action, like let's say you scry, so you can see the top card of the deck after the shuffle. Because let's just say the deck was empty when you opted to scry. You should always see the same card on top of the deck. If nothing else has changed and you're just like scrying and then undoing and then scrying and then undoing and then scrying again, you should always see the same card. And that's something we have to put in. But that should be easy because we could just make the seed for the card RNG just be like an incremental of the turn or something like that. Like it could just be literally the turn counter, so that as long as you're doing the same action on the same turn, you always get the same result. It's probably what we do. Something like that. Yeah, we definitely have easy mode for a lot of this stuff because it's a turn-based game and it's a turn-based single-player game. So we don't really need to worry about bad actors or whatever. Definitely helps. All right, so what am I going to do about these character figures? Could be interesting to make a deterministic seed part of the difficulty options. Oh. Yeah, I think for me, I'd just want that to be the default. That's an interesting idea. Because, yeah, save scumming and stuff like that, that is like, I would consider that on like the spectrum of difficulty as far as like allowing people to do it or not. Yeah, for sure, LSG. Okay, so I'm distracting myself from this problem because I don't want to actually solve this problem. So what we're going to save, I guess I should write the save part first because then I would know what the deserialized part is. So last save equals save data. Serialize. Dictionary. All right, so this is the challenge. So in the nodes that hold what I would call volatile stuff, which is like character figures, character sheets, roster tabs, things that are like being added and removed. The added and removed is the hard part, because if it was just data changing, this would be trivial, but there's a lot of adding and removing of things. And honestly, I could kind of work around it by just like pooling, because there is like a finite number of things that could exist, but let's not do that. Let's try to do it let's try to do it like this. Let's just try to do it. So if we're serializing this data, all we really need to serialize. Oh, we need to undo the. Oh, we need to store the path grid, don't we? path line could be removed, but the path grid we need to store. We can just store their values. Or, no. Maybe? Yeah, maybe we can reconstruct it. We'll think about that. We'll try to reconstruct it first. All right, we're heading back into ads. We're 2 hours in. We're 2 hours in and we've done very little, but we've had some great discussion. We've had some great discussion. And that's okay. In this talk that you posted. And you had a great nap. Well, incredible. You're good at derailing productivity. I mean, that was an important question for us. Just how we were gonna how are we gonna save things? Like, I didn't think we were gonna have 2 save files, but now I do. Now I know. Which is nice because I think the worst case scenario for our mode is that potentially we could write the data but not rename it, in which case you do have a newer save, but it's just not recognized as such. And then that means worst case you've lost 1 action. I don't think anyone would mind if they loaded their save back up after a crash and they were just 1 turn behind where they were. Or even less. I guess that's the question. Do I want to save every action or do I just want to save on the turn? I might just save on the turn rather than the action. We do need to create a save file every action for our undo redo, but we don't necessarily need to write it to the disk every single action. I guess we might as well. If we're going to, we might as well. You think turn is reasonable and even expected? Yeah, but like, why is there a reason if we're gonna collect and store all of that data anyway, even in a temporary form, why wouldn't we just write it out? Why wouldn't we? I guess some people might be upset that I load them just 1 action back. Some people might be like, no, if I quit and reload, I want to be back at the beginning of my turn. And it's like, I don't care. Oh, okay. Here's a good reason. Here's a good reason not to do it every action. We would need to save the timeline. Yeah, if there's a minor performance hit, doing that during a prompt that signals the next turn would hide it. That's a good reason. That's one reason. I think the second reason is if we save per action, we will lose the action history. So like, you will lose the ability. Like, let's say I had like 2 actions available to me because I have like a level 3 knight or something and they have like second wind or something like that, where I can like use an action to get 3 or to get 2 more or something like that. So let's say I use like one of my actions. I don't know, maybe I just have 2 actions. I don't know what the action economy looks like. I don't know why I'm getting hung up on that part. Let's say, for the sake of argument, I have 2 actions. I use one. Then I close the game. And then I open the game back up. Or it crashes, or whatever. I load it back up. I'm on my second action. Let's say I have changed my mind and I want to undo the first action. Well, unless we save the entire timeline, which means saving multiple saves per save, which is confusing. Doable, but confusing. We potentially nuke the undo redo timeline. So saving on a turn basis is nice because the undo, you can't undo back beyond a turn. Like you can't undo into the last turn. You can only undo within a given turn, or undo redo within a given turn. So yeah, that would help with player expectations, because then they would be like, if you just save per turn, then people would be like, they load up maybe they got halfway through their turn and the game crashed. They load up, they're back at the beginning of their turn. Great. No problem. No issue with undo redo. They've lost a little bit, but not much. They haven't lost any of the things the game would have given them in terms of input randomness. So you can't save scum. As long as I save after any card draw happens, which is probably what I should do, is when we do a save per turn, we should probably save at the beginning of the turn rather than at the end of the turn. We should probably do that. In which case we might not even need to seed the random number generator, because then save scumming couldn't actually yield a different outcome, because you can't undo redo outside of a turn. And if we save at the beginning of the new turn rather than at the end of the old turn, then any rolling has already occurred, and there's no way you could have ever changed that outcome by just save scumming, because you're reloading after all the rolls occurred. Ooh, I like that. Then I don't even have to fuck with the random number generator, which is not something I want to have to mess with. I like that idea. Okay. So we're going to save at the beginning of a new turn is what we're going to do. So we'll clear the timeline and save. And then that save will be the beginning of a new timeline. And then all of that is stable and good. Then I don't have to worry about saving like the save manager's timeline or whatever, because I don't actually have any of the auto loaders as part of this, and I don't really want them to be. That sounds good. All right, am I actually going to write code? We're going to go back to writing code. I'm avoiding writing the serialization function for this because I don't know what to do. Up here, we do want to say path line dot tile. No, dot ID path equals an empty array. And then the path grid needs to be serialized, I think, unless we rebuild it. Oh, the environment might need to be saved too. Assuming you can change the environment, we might need to save that out too. For now, let's assume you can't change the environment so that we don't have to do that, but we might need to do that eventually. All right, so this is resetting all the ephemeral data. And then the one actual concrete set of data. So save data.has, so character figs is going to be an array. An array of dictionaries, probably. And so when we serialize, what we're going to do is we're going to say for character fig in character figs. So if we want this to be unique, this dictionary, what we want to do is we want to, well, we'll just say character fig.serialize. Let's just keep pushing the problem down. And what we would do is we would say We need to make a new array. An array. We need variable. Just say character array. It's gonna be an array of dictionaries. And we can just say character array dot append the result of the figures serialize function. So then we just have an array of character figures. This is the only data we're currently saving. So right now what we could do, we could just say I have this character figs bucket. I kind of want to make it a manager and let it handle itself, but I think that's overkill. I think we just do it here. It's part of the reason I like this recursive flow is I get overwhelmed when any one step becomes too large. But if I just hide it in recursive calls, I don't notice. Even though the complexity is probably worse than if I did it all in one place. It helps me be less nervous about it. All right, so save data has character figs. Let's finish writing this first. Finish writing the serialization first so I actually know what I'm saving. So we create this array. Then what we do is we say last save dot set. Key is going to be character figs. And the value is going to be this character array. Okay, so we're going to have this array of their data, and then we just return that. All right, well, let's go one step down. We'll push down here. Fig icon, fig name. I could say fig tile instead of tile map. Kind of like that. In which case I could probably get rid of the stuff here. The icon is this is a texture. I don't know if I love that. Kind of want to store a res, but I also kind of don't. This is such a lightweight thing. I almost want to just recreate it every time and just not worry about it. I might do that. It's a little overkill. But I might just do that so I don't have to worry. Let's write your functions. Func, deserialize, save data. I guess you're gonna have you're gonna keep track of this, huh? Maybe I renamed this fig icon. Character fig. Rename. Fig icon. Character icon. This is gonna break a bunch of stuff. The one time I wish I had writer so I could like refactor these properties so that anyone who touches the properties would have the new name for it. Would be nice. Would be nice. Maybe you don't need to have a last save. No, this is good. This is a good way to do it. What we're going to do is we're going to say if character icon I don't know about these ready functions that need some of these properties to be set in advance. Maybe we shouldn't have those. In which case, there's just a little bit more setup when we create one of these things, which is fine. Although we can't do this until we've added to the... Oh, this is why we do it here. Yeah, maybe this is okay. Maybe this is okay in this case. Save data dot has character icon. This is the mechanism by which we're going to report errors. Is we'll do like an else statement or something. Or we'll have some kind of fallback in case we actually don't have these. It's going to be a little wordy to do it all, but I'm going to say character icon equals save data. Is this okay saving a texture? This is an object. Oh shit, a texture is an object. The resource is an object too. Are we going to avoid saving these things? We're probably going to have to handle this a little differently. So I want to actually set this. So maybe what we do, instead of hard coding the icon, maybe we can do this with the card manager instead of hard coding this. So what we could do is we could say like fig icon.texture. We could say like card manager. We could say like get card res. The thing is, we need to submit a level as well as a name. Actually, maybe level could be optional. Or I could just plug in one. We could say get card icon, and we could take a name. Then we still have the problem of we need to set the name before we add it to the tree. I'm going to take this out of the ready function, or I'm going to get rid of this ready function. see. We're not going to store the character icon. We will store the name. And then we would say fig icon dot texture equals card manager dot get card icon character name. So we're gonna need to change it so that we build the thing back up in the deserialize function, not in ready. Ready is still useful for like getting references to like other nodes in the tree, so that like we can access like the fig icon, for example. We'll just do it here instead of forcing us to do it elsewhere. We could have a setup function or like an initialize or something like that. Instead of just doing it all here. So we'll need to move we'll need to set the character tile. Oh, Lord. How are we going to set this thing's position? Who do I want to have responsible for that? Maybe the input manager. We could say something like character tile. Well, we could set the character tile equals save data character tile. And then what we can do is we can say position equals input manager dot, we could say map to local character tile. We're going to depend on a lot of auto loaders to be able to do this cleanly. Relatively cleanly. Should be okay. Something like that seems fine for deserialize. Seems like a really rudimentary process, but you know, I don't think it needs to be complicated. There's going to be some layer we're going to need on top of this for like making sure that all the card resources are available. Which actually probably means adding it to the save. So that way if you're on like, let's say you have an old save that you want to play. And let's say I like got rid of some cards. I don't know why I would, but let's just say I would. You really would need to be able to still use those cards, especially if they are in play, like you have them. So I do probably need to replace all the card data at the top level, which is not That's not impossible. That's something we could do. That's actually not that hard. I just need to add some more data to the top level. Because the game manager actually has this information available. And that adds a little bit more forward compatibility. All right, so I think this is the process that we're going to use, which is the ready function is not going to depend on any of these. It's only going to operate on stuff that's like built into the scene from the beginning. Stuff like, get my children, do some kind of stuff like that. Just stuff that's available on ready. And then don't expect these properties to be filled on ready. And then what we'll do, so so when you create a new run, either the run will be initialized with all of its defaults, or you'll have this save file that you're loading. So it still creates like a quote unquote fresh run, but then loads you up to the state that you were in when you quit. It like creates the stuff it needs to create. It like updates all the stuff it needs to update. That way we're not saving any objects. We're not going to save objects. We will retrieve objects. Oh. So we can't actually save card resources. We'll have to build it back out. But that's fine. We can save the card sets that we build the resources from. We can do that. I know I could technically save resources by using var to bytes with object or whatever, along with some caveats, I think. We might need to do that a bit. Might need to do that a little bit. Open this back up again. Format is not used for binary scenes and resources. So yeah, we got to be careful about resources. Var to bytes with objects. Encoding objects is allowed and can potentially include executable code. Deserialization can be done bytes to var with objects. How do I know if this is encoding full objects versus just object IDs? I don't think we actually want to store all of that stuff. It seems a little heavy duty. Maybe there's some additional data we pull when we actually do a save. I don't know. Some of this seems like a little overkill for undo redo, but to have a unified system is nice. I think this will be okay, though. All right, so let's go back up one level. Well, let's go to the input manager and make sure input manager can actually execute these functions. Func. Map, local to map. Vector to local. Local position. This returns a vector 2i. And this is environment map dot local to map. Local position. This is just return. And then func map to local. map position. It's a vector 2i. Returns to us a vector 2. You just say return environment map. Well, no, we can't. It can't be a local position. We can say position. And what we need to do is we need to say environment map dot to local, because we don't actually know if we're going to get a local position or a global position, honestly. Well, I did this in the wrong order. Dot to local. Environment map dot. Fig icon. Okay, so we're not doing any of this. Well, we're not gonna do that. Instead, we're saying character name equals card name. We're gonna say character tile equals cursor map. And then we will add the child. And we'll set the position. Map to local, cursor map. Actually, is cursor position always... No, it's global. Yeah, okay. So actually, I want to put that to local anyway, huh? Maybe we just put this to local now. And then we don't have to do it up here. I don't know. That's a little scary to not have the to local on there, but I'm going to ignore it for now. What am I doing? Oh yeah, trying to make sure the character fig creation process, it makes sense. Fig icon, character name, character tile. Deserialize. So we need to set the fig icon dot texture. And we need to set the position. Okay. So we need to say character fig dot fig icon. Oh wait, no, this isn't accessible yet until after we add it to the child. Equals card res dot card icon. That should be fine. Let's copy that around. Is there anyone else who makes a character fig? No, that's the only place we do that. Never mind. I feel good about this. I feel good about this solution. It's a little bit of work to get it going, but should be pretty robust once it's up. Ship it. Thanks, Nanigans. I need to get back to, like, momentum. I need to get back to, like, knocking stuff out on this game. We've been kind of agonizing on some procedural stuff for a while here. All right, so when we serialize the environment map, at the moment, all we're saving is the character fig stuff. But what we actually also want to save... No. So we're going to need a process to rebuild the path grid based on this. We're going to need to rebuild a bunch of stuff based on this, including the path grid. So let's say path grid. Let's say path grid.clear. Will that work? You're just a tile map layer, right? I guess you need to clear too. Pathline.clear. Path ID, pathline.id path, is that? I'm going to make a clear data function or something for all these things so that I can hide this somewhere else. But for right now, it's nice to see. Make sure I'm not missing anything. So this stuff all needs to be rebuilt. Especially the path grid. How do I build the path grid anyway right now? Pathgrid.setPointSolid. True. Oh, wait. So you have a tile map, but it's just for debugging, isn't it? You have this A-star grid 2D. We need to rebuild you. Cell and get used cells. Get cell atlas chords cell is solid. So we need like a rebuild. We need to be like a, we need like an update grid function. Move this down here. Actually, I don't necessarily think we need the dot new. We're gonna put this down here. And we'll just call this. That way we can hook into this elsewhere. I'm gonna leave this in a semi-broken state because maybe I should. I should not leave it in a semi-broken state. Set point solid, a star grid dot set point solid ID solid. We should also set the cell. Okay, we do. Good. Okay, so I just need to call this. So we'll update the grid and then we'll call this for whatever we need. So we're gonna update the grid. We're gonna go, so for save data.has character figs. So now we need to reset all of these character figs. And how do I want to do that? How do I want to do that? I kind of just want to start over and recreate them. Like I kind of don't want to attempt to like remediate the existing figs, but maybe that's best. Maybe what we do is we go through. Maybe we go through and try to remediate the ones that exist and then create new ones or delete ones if they don't or don't need to exist. Because the deserialize function will change a lot of them. Save data, dictionary, yeah. So let's do that. Let's do something where we're like, well, we can say if, here. So if we have too many figs, we need to update the ones that we want and then delete the rest. If we don't have enough, we want to update the ones that we want and then add more until we're done, until we have all the ones that we need. So I guess the easiest thing to do, so we can say variable character array is an array, a dictionary, and it equals save data. Oh. I can define a default. Instead of this if save data.has bullshit, I can do get or default basically. Do we actually have a get or default? No, but get, I think itself is get or default. Returns the corresponding value for the given key in the dictionary. If the key does not exist, returns default or null if the parameter is omitted. So I could actually define fallbacks for how to handle like an old save or whatever, where like maybe there was like maybe we introduce a feature or whatever. So this old save doesn't have it, and I could add a little bit of forward compatibility by just defining a fallback. Instead of doing this if save data.has shit, I just need to use the .get function. Cool. Well, we're not going to do that here, but that's good to know. So we'll say if character array dot size is equal to character figs dot, how do I get the count of my children? Get child count. So if it's the same, we can just do this. If there's less, we can do that. We do this, we can then say else elif character array dot size is less than character figs dot get child count. Maybe I should have like maybe I should save this somewhere instead of just asking all the time, but whatever, who cares. Then we can have elif character array dot size is greater than character figs dot get child count. This is kind of, if they're the same, if they're less, otherwise if they're greater. Actually, I could put the equals one last. Let's do that. That's just the else. Because if they're not greater or less than, they're equal. So let's just do that. You're gonna head out? All right. You might check out the Order of the Sinking Star demo. Oh, have fun. I've heard it's long. I've heard there's like 5 or 6 hours of puzzles in there. Hey, Fender. How's it going? How's Game Maker life? So this is how we're gonna do this, because this is straightforward. We'll just top up or reduce the number of... Now we can just say while we can say while character array dot size. Well, let's store the array size. Why not? Say while array size is, we can say while array size is less than character figs dot get child count. So what we'll do is we'll increase the child count. You can create more of these, right? Yeah, character fig dot instantiate character. We can say character figs dot add child character fig dot instantiate. And here we'll say, we'll do the opposite. We'll say while our size is greater than character figs dot get child count. Oh wait, I'm doing this backwards. We add here. Here we would delete. Just get the 0th. I'm sure this is going to bite me later, but this seems like a nice, simple way to do this. K-Maker life is terrible. Hey, Godot is always here for you. Godot life is good. I tried to do a pun with Godot and good. Cannot be done. Godot life is good. All right, otherwise... Oh, this elf thing doesn't make sense. So yeah, we'll say if this, elif that. Otherwise, what we can do is we can just iterate. And we can just say for. We can say for... we can say array data. Dictionary in character array. We can now say oh, we would need here, we'll say variable. No, this needs to be an index, huh? For character IDX int equals 0. Well, it already equals 0. Now we can say while character IDX is less than array size. Why am I saying for? Character I variable, not for. Variable character IDX equals int. You do have Godot installed in Navy. Godot is the dark side of development. You have a very strange opinion. Godot is like the Hobbit of game engines. Like, it's like the unsuspected, good, hidden gem. The dark side of game development, depending on who you ask, the current evil one is like Unity, but the future evil one is looking like Unreal. I don't know if you've read about what Unreal 6 is doing, but That is it's getting close to some runtime licensing fees level of like concerning. Godot is the good one. Game Maker is not even open source. Godot is open source. Game Maker is made by a for-profit game dev studio. I hear they're very nice. I hear the Game Maker team are actually like the sweetest people, so I don't want to rag on them. But the Godot Foundation is set up in a way that they literally can't do the kinds of things that these other engine makers are doing on a daily basis, on an ever-increasing basis, the crazy decisions that they're making. The Godot Foundation, even if the Godot Foundation made such a decision, they would be incapable of implementing it based on their governance structure. And even if you didn't like the direction the Godot engine was going, you could just fork it. You could just fork it and have your own version of the engine. I don't know what more I can say. I think you need to like walk up a mountain and have like a serious think. Because if you think Godot is the dark side, you've got another think coming. All right, while character index is less than the array size, we will say character figs dot get child 0 dot deserialize character array 0. Well, not 0. Character IDX. Character IDX plus equals 1. Oh, what's going on here? Is character IDX used somewhere? Why am I getting a warning? The variable IDX is modified, but it was not previously initialized. Okay, whatever. Equals 0. Get out of my face. I'm sorry, you've used a primitive value, but you didn't initialize it. You used a primitive value with a well-defined default state. But I'm gonna tell you something, says the Godot debugger. It's fine. All right, this should work. This should work. So whenever we deserialize, assuming that the save data is different than our current state, which we are checking by just doing a simple hash with the last save. If it is different, we'll reset all of our ephemeral data. We'll need to rebuild it, some of it, which I don't want to do yet, but we will. What we should do before we do this is we should actually say path grid dot set point solid character figs. Here, we need to actually store this. Variable character fig is a character fig equals character figs dot get child character IDX. We'll deserialize to it, and then we're going to set point solid character fig dot character tile. Too few arguments. Vector. Oh, solid. Cool. True. All right. That should work. That should rebuild the pathfinding network at the same time. So yeah, what I was saying is we queue. If we need to queue figs, we dequeue them. We queue free them. If we need to reduce the number of figures we have on the board, we do that. If we need to increase the number of figures we have on the board, we do that. And then we sync them. Hey, Sia PCE. Have you considered utilizing a return early to remove an indent level from that function? Where? Where would you recommend? You're having this problem. You don't know what's wrong with your code, Fender. Yeah, that's game dev. At the top? Yeah, I could. We still do this. And we're not resetting the save data, but that's fine. That's actually probably better. Just let that save data. For some reason, I was like, I wanna update the save data either way, but now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I don't. Maybe I don't want to do that either way. Yeah, that's all right. Indent levels are precious in GDScript. Especially because the editor is so wee. It's like 80 characters or something. It's like the smallest editor window you'll ever see. Indent space is precious, so appreciate that. It's a good idea. I don't know why I did it the other way. I think it's because I wanted to do this one thing either way, and I realized I don't need to do it either way. Solid change. I am happy to accept backseat coding at any time. Some people get annoyed by it, not me, because I acknowledge that I'm not a good programmer. Happy to acknowledge that. All right, this was more complicated than I thought it was going to be, but this also provides a model for how to deserialize things like our character sheets, which are far and away the most complex thing that we're going to have to serialize and deserialize, because that's our representation of the character. This is just the piece on the board, the character figs. They're just the little figures that are on the board that symbolize it, but the character sheet is like where all the real information is. So we'll have to do that next. But I don't know if we're going to do that today because we're coming up on 3 hours, which is about the limit for my streaming here. We're doing good. We're doing good. People are hanging out. It seems like YouTube has started recommending this stream to people again. There was like at least a couple of weeks there where YouTube was like, you should die, Dave. You should just stop streaming. Nobody wants to see this. So it's nice to see you all over on YouTube. It's nice to see more than 0 concurrent viewers. Appreciate you. I know we're doing some boring stuff. I know this has been boring times. Yeah, the plugins are really great, Fender. The fact that it's really hard to change an engine if you want to change it, if you have your own thing in mind, it's really easy to do in Godot. You just got to learn about GD extension and like make files and stuff. If you actually want to change the engine, if you want to like add an extension or something like that. If you want to just do a plugin, yeah, it's even easier. You can just make a plugin with GDScript. I've dabbled with making some plugins, but I've found that my per project code is so specific. I haven't been able to successfully generalize it yet, but we're working on doing that in another project. You need to stream in the shorts section to be loved by YouTube. I don't even know how to do that. I do want to start making some shorts once we have more stuff going on. I want to do more clipping of the stream for shorts. But yeah, we're going to start doing that eventually. Once we're more like trying to attract like people to like, I want to start doing that when the Steam page is up and we've got something playable and we can showcase that in like nice little 30-second increments. I want to do that. But we've had a good stream. What's today? Thursday? This is like the midpoint of our streaming week. I will stream Friday and I will also stream Saturday. But I think we're going to wrap it up here. I think this is good. I think this is reasonably good. I think there's maybe a couple things I need to think about, but I like this system of just getting to the right number of figures and then syncing them and not really worrying about much else. We'll see if I end up hating that. when I start to do the character sheet, because I think the character sheet is going to be the hard version of this, but maybe I'll do that tonight. Because I would like to get back to like having things be playable. I would like to get back to like working on actually making things happen. Oh Lord, what did I do? Somehow getting the cursor to local is like absolutely destroying everything. Okay, well, that's good to know. Fix that. That's what I suspect is happening here. Let's undo this to local thing. That was weird. Oh, we're already doing the to local here, so I think that's what's happening. Yeah, okay, that's fine. I was double to localing it, but yeah, we have our characters. We can plop them down. This guy's background is darker than the regular background, maybe? No, it looks fine. Crash. Bound tiles.append. Invalid access to a T key. Card drag, bound tiles. Okay. I created some errors. Something about clearing the character figure. Card drag, clear all tiles, bound tiles.clear. Character fig by name. Character name. I don't quite know what I did there, but I did something. But yeah, this was fun. I'm going to wrap it up here. We'll be back tomorrow. This has been Party Wipe, the roguelike deck builder where you draft an RPG party. Thanks for the stream. No, thank you, Jacob. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you all next time. Bye.